Howdy, howdy. Welcome to another episode of We Talk Sports. Once again, I am your host, Dom Siani. Joining me is now the remaining co-host, I should say, Jacob Pendergraph and Owen Fleming. Welcome, guys, again to this wonderful show we got going on.
Absolutely, man.
Happy to be here.
First episode was a blast. Let's get back into it.
Absolutely, guys. So we are going to go over the NFL Divisional round. A couple things that kind of happened over the weekend that we're kind of not really going to talk about as much. We'll do that for probably next week's episode. But a lot of coaching has happened. I saw the Jets hired a new head coach, Owen.
Aaron Glenn, the Detroit Lions coordinator. Bears hired Ben Johnson.
They did. He is a former player.
Yes, former Jet. But it is also the Jets, so I live under the assumption he will be fired within 3 years.
Yep.
We will see about that, as well as Ben Johnson finally getting a team in the Chicago Bears. Very interesting going to the Chicago Bears. A lot of rumors were talking about the Raiders, but very interesting. As well as the Raiders finding themselves a GM. Can't remember quite his name. But they did find a GM.
From the Buccaneers.
From the Buccaneers,
yeah,
yes, assistant GM for the Buccaneers, which makes sense with the Brady relationship.
Yeah.
As well as, I guess, of course, Mike Vrabel finding his way to New England. That was
of course,
kind of
expected.
Yeah. So still a lot to go over. Once all these get filled up, we'll talk about them.
The Jaguars are getting
Jaguars
fired.
Just fired their GM, which
2 weeks too late.
2 weeks too late, and it probably pushed away the coordinator for
the Buccaneers coordinator who just got a pay raise to stay.
Stay there. So interesting. But let's go ahead and talk about divisional round. Obviously, we'll save Jacob's favorite one for last, and we'll get into Rams Eagles. A snow globe of a game.
Wow.
You can say that again. That was a good game. It was a good game.
I really did enjoy it. I thought it was by far, in a way, I think the Bills-Ravens game, which we'll talk about later, was definitely by far the most intense one. But this one just felt more of the fun type game.
I enjoyed this one a
it's
lot.
football in the snow. It's Jameson Wilson being happy.
Oh, for sure. It is. It is just like I always enjoy the snow games. Like I think it was like probably 7 years ago, the Bills game in the snow was probably one of the most like just entertaining games, and it was like low scoring too. And I was just like, man, I just love like the clash of snow and football just is so.
It's really interesting how you have to shift your strategies.
Exactly.
Because in the first half it wasn't that bad, and then it gets to the second half and it's just pouring, and they cannot pass the ball anymore.
The Rams were just not prepared for
the snow.
The snow, like Stafford. Well,
he led a great drive in the end. He just
thought
missed that one throw.
I thought he had it at the end.
I was thinking, I was like, man, this could be, because I was like, in my back of my head, I was like, man, the Rams could technically make it to the championship game because they are a spoiler for this playoff season.
Absolutely.
And they were close, but
they could not beat Saquon.
Not success.
Saquon was crazy. I mean, that the free agent signing of Saquon is definitely one of the most impactful in recent memory.
I think it's becoming more impactful. Like if you compared the Ravens to Henry's signing, the Eagles exactly knew what they wanted to do with Saquon, whereas the Ravens got Henry, and we had all this like speculation of who was going to be the most unstoppable and how are you going to stop Lamar and Henry versus Hurts and Barkley. And so far, it's been the Eagles been doing that. Even like when Jalen Hurts is not passing as much, he's still like they have to worry about him running, and they paid the price in like the first like drive of the game with the Hurts touchdowns. So.
Yeah, I think the value of running backs is definitely going to be interesting because it seems like it's trending back up again after a while where running backs were getting paid less.
Yeah.
Now, without Saquon and Derek being such great additions to those offenses, I wonder who's going to get paid this offseason.
Exactly.
The kind of money's going to go up for the position
genuinely am
general.
interested because I think when we were talking about how they can get replaced, their value after this season by seeing, especially with Saquon, how revolution in terms of this like season,
and he's getting paid a lot less than like a wide receiver
one. Oh yeah, for sure. And most receivers aren't doing as much as Barkley is doing, especially in the postseason too. Like you need a good receiver. Don't get me wrong. You need a passing game, and one of those is the receiver. But a lot of the best receivers right now, like AJ Brown was probably one of the highest paid receivers in the league.
Up there. Yeah.
And of course they use him sometimes, but they don't use him as much as Barkley because he's just
Barkley's more reliable.
He is more
You're
reliable.
gonna get the yards with Barkley. With AJ Brown, it's a toss up. Like,
Yeah.
But I think like in terms of like the Rams, they had probably one of the most like odd and like unpredictable seasons, I would say. Like I did not
Definitely.
expect them to be like I expected them maybe to be in the playoffs, but nowhere near to being
the
challenging.
divisional round.
It's going to be interesting to see what they do this offseason because their defense is really young. So if they can add some more talent to that,
for
I don't
sure.
see
Maybe
any
get a
reason why
couple
they couldn't go
veteran
further.
players in there to help guide the young
Yeah.
bucks. And
Since
I see
they
no
are
reason,
still
yeah.
have they still have the void of Aaron Donald, which
Yeah,
has not
they-
been filled.
They cannot. That's going to be a hard one to fill up. But I think McVay and his staff at the Rams have done a really good job using young talent and very scrappy talent to make a defense that is, in a way, solid enough to shut down a Vikings team, which was looking one of the hardest ones to beat in the regular season, and basically keeping up with the Rams. I mean, they basically held most of their passing at check, and a lot of that could be due with the Eagles maybe changing their strategy to maybe relying on Saquon a bit more than them saying like, well, we're going to throw the ball and risking it a bit on some snow. So
Yeah, I think that the Saquon Barkley strategy will get old eventually. It's gonna be like the brotherly push. The teams eventually, like, I mean, we've seen it a lot more in the offseason with the brotherly push without Jason Kelsey. It's getting stopped a lot more, and as you phase these veteran players out, but these new guys in, it's become a lot less effective. And I feel like the teams have learned to counter it a little bit more, so it's become less effective. I feel like if they keep doing that with Saquon Barkley, it's going to go the way of the tush push.
We'll just
and
see
it's
if
not
they
gonna
can
be
figure
as
that out.
effective.
Yeah,
we'll
by
just
the-
see if
by
it
the
is.
end
I
of the
feel like
playoff
the
run.
tush push compared to what Saquon is completely different, because I feel like for the tush push, it makes sense for them to think of like, oh, we just need a yard. And to me, if you just need a yard, that shouldn't be the hardest thing in the world
No,
Yeah.
you
to
should
get,
that.
and especially in today's NFL. Like getting 1 yard is like it should be near impossible, or not near, like near impossible to not get.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it should
so-
be easy yards.
Oh yeah, it should be. So
Should be.
Should be.
should
Some
be.
of these guys are getting paid too much to do too
Yeah.
little. But,
I know.
You know,
Yes. So,
Yeah.
I
but yeah,
digress.
I think a lot of us like, of course, when you picked the Rams to win this game.
I did.
But the Rams could have won this game, but like what we're going to see across these games is turnovers. The teams that turned over the ball a bunch. The only game that didn't have any real turnovers was the Chiefs and Texans game, but the Chiefs played cleaner and just more proficient and just executed it.
And they had the refs on their side.
That
They
too.
did have that.
That
You get-
too.
when the commentators are like, "Come on, man,"
Yeah,
it's
you know it's
serious, 'cause
bad
They don't
when
always
Chris
call that
Collinsworth
stuff
is
out.
like, come on, dude.
Yeah.
But definitely for that. But definitely the Texans didn't help themselves a lot during that game. We saw kind of their limitations that were hidden during the Chargers game. That was more of a Chargers meltdown rather than a Houston dominant
Yeah.
game.
The O line.
The O-line did
O-line.
not show up. CJ
Swiss cheese O-line.
Yeah.
CJ definitely struggled a bit there as well. It's about like the same thing with the I would say not as shown in the Chargers game, but this is kind of
They're playing a better team.
Yeah.
they're playing a better
They're
team.
going to find some more
and
issues that are not going to come out when you're playing a team
Yeah,
like the
so
Chargers.
it'll be
Yeah.
interesting to see the Chiefs play and how they can
Yeah.
do the rest
Oh,
of the
for
season
sure.
when they're not playing the
Oh,
Texans.
absolutely.
It'll be
Absolutely.
interesting too. So I think we kind of got a wrap on that for the Eagles game. So let's go into our next segment, which will be the game of the week, which I would say got close to living up to the hype, which was Bills Ravens. So what would you guys have to say?
Another snow game.
Another snow game.
Another snow game.
Another snow game.
I'm not mad at it. Again, there's just something about the magic of football and snow going hand in hand. Like, obviously we had a big snow here recently, and I don't know about y'all, but I was out there throwing some ball.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Nice.
Always
Yeah.
great to throw the
Yeah.
pigskin in some
Yeah.
bad weather or good weather.
Good weather,
Good
depending on
weather.
how you
Snow
look
is
at
always
it.
good
Yeah.
weather. Yeah.
Bills, I don't think anybody had any doubt until that last drive that the Bills were going to take that one away.
Yeah, I think once like the Bills were just like, I think was the Ravens scored first and then the Bills went down and responded. And the thing about the Bills defense that they need to do, especially going to Kansas City next week, they just need to get those turnovers and just those crucial plays that will give them an edge over
The
a
big
team.
plays on third downs is what the Bills' offense will need to improve on.
Because during that game, the one thing the Ravens were doing well at, especially in that second half, was limiting the Buffalo offense. And then because of how much, I would say, weaker the secondary of the Bills is, they just kept on picking them apart. And
until Mark Andrews
Until
he
all
fumbled
away
at the
and then
two.
didn't
I
catch
was
the
really-
two-point conversion.
I was really like sold, but at the same time, I was just like, there's no way the Bills weren't going to lose this game the same way they lost earlier this year, just because one, it's in Buffalo, two, it's a different game. It's
Yeah.
later in the season, more teams are
They've had a chance to look over the film. They know the mistakes they made. They're not going to try and make those
No,
mistakes.
exactly.
I just feel bad for Lamar's playoff
Oh.
allegations.
Oh,
He
my
will never
goodness.
beat them, and it was kind of his fault this time. He did throw some interceptions.
He threw an interception. He had, I think, 2 total turnovers. Mark Andrew was the responsible for a drop and a fumble, which was
Yes.
more. I don't blame him as much maybe for the fumble, just because I think that's more of a good play.
It was
by
a good punch out, but you
Yeah.
gotta
You
hold
hold on.
on
You
to it
gotta
with
hold
both
that ball. I
hands.
mean,
For
come
sure.
on, dude. That was an easy. It wasn't even like it was a hands catch.
Yeah,
it was
he
a
was pretty
body catch.
open.
All you
No,
gotta do
yeah.
is corral it in. It's not that hard.
No, I mean, I feel bad for Mark Andrews. Like that is
It's
like,
the second time he's made that
it's-
same fumble too.
oh
that's
my
crazy.
goodness.
Oh,
and
poor
it-
Mark Andrews.
and the same like not as bad as the like few years ago against Pittsburgh. I think that was more on a Lamar throw, but
Yeah,
this one was
This one was
Mark
Brutal.
Andrews,
You know.
unfortunately. But I don't know. I think the thing is, it's just another game where Lamar can play well, but he has those 2 drives that, in a game where the margin is so
slim.
small,
It's
Yeah.
so slim.
you just can't make those mistakes in crucial moments. Especially the Ravens were driving on one of those plays where he fumbles it and Von Miller almost takes it back for a
Oh, yes,
score.
yes.
Bill still scored anyway, and that gave him the lead. And like when you take that into consideration, it makes a lot of sense on how the Bills won this game.
Yeah.
Lamar, like the Bills defense, I think did a really good job, better than probably what they've done this entire season. But I feel like it was more of Lamar's mistakes, the Ravens leaning away from Henry, especially at the end of the game. That's what cost them. They did the exact opposite of what the Eagles did. Instead of leaning on one of the best running backs in the league, they went back to a quarterback that has a bit of yips.
But he's still, he's still MVP
he's
candidate,
still the
and
Lamar
they were
Jackson.
running out of time. And
They were, but
he needed to make a play, and it
I
just
feel
so
like
happens that the play didn't go the way.
Yeah, they
he
moved.
made the play. Lamar
made the play.
Mark
Lamar-
Andrews
no, he
did
made
not
the
make
play.
the
Andrews
play.
did not make the play.
And I
but
think Lamar knows that. Lamar knows
Yeah.
that
Deep
he
down
can't
inside,
do that. He was
yeah.
mad at himself
He
in the
can't
post
be on both
conference.
sides of the ball.
No.
It feels like eventually the Ravens are going to figure out a way to break through
Yeah.
this,
It
but
just-
not this year.
They just gotta
No.
keep pounding.
Oh, yeah. Well,
got- They got to flock
they're
up
in a
is
better
what they-
state than we are, at least.
We'll see. But
We'll talk about that when we hit free agency.
when we get there. But for sure, I won't blame. Like I said, I think this is the playoff game where Lamar is blamed the least.
Yeah.
Compared to last year where it was just totally on
It
him.
was
He
his fault. It was-
he went. I mean, he pulled a LeBron 2011, just went completely cold
Yep.
and
Playoff
disappeared.
jitters.
He did. I
Yeah.
mean, that's the thing. Like, I don't think this is as much, but I think the thing is you see 2 different sides of it. Josh Allen, while not having as much productive as probably Lamar did,
He was not that productive. It was like 100.
but he's
Yeah.
I don't know. He was still like,
Jalen Hurts level yards right there.
but
Come
with
on
the
now.
lack of like explosiveness around him, other than probably James Cook, like Amari Cooper, and was it Keon Coleman? I think is the other
Rookie.
receiver.
Yeah.
Both were just like really no shows, and I think a lot of that was like the game plan, like bad
Ravens
weather.
have a good defense.
Yeah.
Ravens have a good defense. Game plan is let's attack the rush, especially since they're one of the best rushing offenses in the league, and they have also a 2-way offense with Cook and Allen, which they did perfectly. I think the thing is that makes the Bills very dangerous is just because of how well Allen has made this offense. He's not turning over the ball. Like that game felt like that could be where he could make mistakes, throw a pick or fumble. He did not. Like,
No.
he was playing
Very
more
conservative.
surprisingly for Josh Allen. And I think they'll move away from that and try to go as aggressive this upcoming week. But I think for how, like, dangerous they could make the Ravens get opportunities, they played it pretty safe, and it paid off. I mean,
Yeah.
it did. It
They
paid off.
came away with the dub, and you know all these people saying, "Oh, the Bills only won because Mark Andrews fumbled the ball." A win is a win.
A win,
is a win.
especially
They
in
played
the
well.
Especially in
playoffs.
playoff football.
Like, it is like if it was the regular season, sure, we
Sure.
could argue that, like, is this sustainable? But it's the playoffs.
You have no room for error in the playoffs.
No.
This is quite literally a shot to the biggest sports football game in the world.
Oh, yeah. And
I do wonder though if the Bills' like lack of a true X receiver is going to hurt them eventually. Like as it comes up, like Allen makes the plays and he makes all his receivers better, but they don't have a Stephon Diggs
Yeah.
anymore.
No.
And I do wonder
Exactly.
if that's going to stop them from winning a Super Bowl.
the thing is, I think they might be more creative with their plays with the limit they have. If they make it to the Super Bowl with this roster, it's really impressive.
Especially when it was considered to be like they won't be as good this
No,
year.
a lot of people had, like, the Jets or Dolphins ahead of them, and
We saw how well that went.
the Jets. That's a dumpster fire.
Yeah.
We'll talk about that next episode.
Yeah. So I don't know. It was exciting. I thought it was a really good game. Great way to end off divisional
Yeah.
weekend. Really fun. I thought Josh Allen. Obviously, the regular season's going to matter, and the voting's already in. So whoever does, or
Whoever had the MVP, vote
MVP is going to win
MVP.
it. So this game didn't matter in terms of the MVP race. Though if it did, this probably would have decided who won it.
Yeah.
I thought Josh Allen played in a way more. I don't know. He just played in a way to win for his team.
Yeah.
Lamar played in a way that could have won for his team, but he just had two really
Or just a
important
few more
mistakes.
mistakes.
Yeah.
So,
And that's what playoff football is about. You know, you
Mhm.
can't make mistakes.
Yeah.
oh, for sure not.
You know,
So,
playoff football is high pressure, high stakes football. You make a mistake, it could cost you the game.
oh,
That's what it did for this one.
yeah, the Ravens. But I think we'll move on to our last playoff game to talk about before we get on to predictions and possibly anything else. Probably what we got wrong and right about this week. But let's go on and talk about the upset of the week that a lot of us did not see coming. Commanders-Lions. How did the Lions lose this game?
Well,
Jared
it's
Goff.
not Jared Goff,
Goff.
baby. Well, let's not take the credit away from the Commanders. All
No,
right,
they
we
played it.
showed up. We are hungry. If this game this past weekend showed you guys anything, is that the Commanders are a Super Bowl contender,
Yeah.
and it is a team of young guys who are hungry. We're tired of the Commanders have to go through this, the Commanders got to go through that. Nah, y'all got to go through us now. The Eagles have to go through the Commanders if they want to go to the Super Bowl.
Oh, yeah.
The
Yeah.
Commanders are a contender. The Commanders just beat the brakes off of a number one contender. All right? Let's go ahead and get that one out the way. Second of all, defense made some incredible plays. And I think that Philly, and moving past that, both the Bills and the Chiefs are going to have to look hard at that and maybe take a little bit of example from it too, because none of the defenses I saw this weekend had the same explosiveness and the same plays that the Commanders made. Obviously, I mean, a pick six off of Jared Goff is impressive.
No, yeah, it
At
is.
the very least.
The Lions
and-
still put up like 500 total yards of
yeah,
offense.
they
and
did
still got
good.
the
It was a
win.
high-scoring game.
It
but
was.
The defense, while they allowed high yardage, made the two key plays that kind of
Oh, yeah.
allowed for the
I-
Commanders to take that dub.
Yeah.
I really think when the pick six happened, that's when I thought,
Oh,
yeah,
they might do
momentum really changed. And I'm like, if the Commanders win, that's how they just, like, won it right
Yeah.
there. And,
And I mean, Josh Allen taking that nasty hit off of Frankie Louvu.
well, that was
Jared
Jared
Goff.
Goff.
Yeah.
Or Jared Goff, I'm sorry. Wow.
Frankie Louvu.
Frankie
really
Louvu
stepped up.
is.
Really, yeah, I mean, that defense really went bonkers. Like, they limit the Lions, like, as much yards as they allowed, they did not allow them to gain anything.
They
from-
shut down David Montgomery.
No, they did. Like,
Which
was
I thought it was
surprising.
interesting that they were running him a lot since he
Yeah.
was coming back injured.
And I
would have used Gibbs a bit more.
I was
since he
surprised
had
of,
been so
like,
successful.
how-
And Gibbs was incredibly successful against the Commanders' defense.
It was
which
a
is
little
something
bit
they're
of
going
an-
to
it
have
was
to
a
watch
weird
out
ending.
against the Eagles.
It was a weird ending for Ben Johnson's
Yeah.
play calling.
It
career
really
for
was.
Detroit.
And
Because while they had the 500 yards of offense, there was a ton of turnovers. They
Yeah.
didn't score like they usually do. They had that weird play where Jamison Williams threw an interception,
Yep.
which was quite a pathetic ending to the Ben
Yep.
Johnson era.
Oh,
The Lions really just underperformed this week compared to where I had them. I rated Jared Goff pretty highly before this week, and he
I
let
did-
me down fully.
Jared Goff,
Matthew
fraud
Stafford
alert
is
is calling.
still better than him.
it was just, I don't know. It was such a surprise, and I couldn't believe, kind of.
I can. I believed it.
Good.
I know,
believed
yeah,
it.
yeah.
I saw your Instagram stories
Mhm.
like 60,
What was the total?
like 60 of them.
62
62.
Instagram stories.
70 probably is the number that we
Probably
hit.
a little bit higher.
But I think that's, I mean, just unbelievably a meltdown in general, a nightmare for Detroit fans. I can't believe it. Like, I just,
I have faith, Detroit fans. Next year, you'll get them for sure.
Oh yeah.
well, with a
With all
healthier
these new
defense.
with
Like,
the
I will
health-
say
yeah,
this
defense
Detroit
was hurt,
team
but-
was good offensively. That defense, I mean, they were playing.
Jaden
down.
Daniels is Detroit's defense's dad.
Well, yeah,
That much is
the
very
prac-
obvious. He
the
was
tr-
throwing passes as a rookie that he should not have been
I mean,
throwing and making. That one
I-
pass to De'Ami Brown, right in the breadbasket with De'Ami Brown's eyes covered. Come on, man. That's like, this is MVP level throws he's making here as a rookie.
We'll see how.
And it's
next,
just gonna be terrifying how he progresses.
well, we'll see how next
he's
year
only up
is.
from here.
We'll see how next year is, just because slumps and, I don't
Tom
think.
Brady seemed to have a bit of a man crush during the game. He seemed
Yeah.
to really be like,
He was like,
"Hey."
oh my gosh.
All right, so let's get on. I think we're kind of understanding about that. Just turnovers, like,
And key offensive plays. That one to Terry McLaurin.
That
pretty
was
important.
cool.
All right, well, let's get on to. I think we'll do kind of what we got wrong before we go. But right now, we're gonna show you kind of the picks we got last week. Oh, and you did, unfortunately, the worse than us. Me and Jacob both tied at 3-1
It's okay, bud.
with the NFL picks. Obviously, me and him, Jacob went with Notre Dame. Unfortunately, the Irish
I was
came
right on
close
all
to
that.
pulling off
It
the
almost
comeback.
happened. It almost
They came
happened.
close to pulling off the comeback. They were 8 points, but that just catch in Irish fashion. But yeah, so that's kind of everything. Of course, me and Owen did not see the Lions losing that. Owen saw the Rams pulling off against the Eagles.
Which was close. I
That was-
really needed that to happen.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, they didn't pull it off. But,
No.
I felt I was close enough in the total score. I'm like,
They
I
were
can live
close.
with
They were
it.
close. But I think we're going to go ahead and go into our final segment, which is going to be talking about 2 games. Championship Sunday, we got Eagles Commanders, early window, and then we got ourselves for the final game, Bills Chiefs. It's going to be interesting. We'll start off with the more kind of maybe margin compared to the Chiefs game. This one's going to be has more of a heavy favorite. We're going to talk Commanders, Eagles. Jacob, you go off.
Commanders. Commanders going to take it. I'm sick and tired of the ESPN analytics are talking about the Commanders have a 30% chance. We had a 30% chance to beat Detroit,
Probably even
and
less
we
than
smoked
that.
them. We had 27 to beat Detroit. That's actually right. We smoked them. So the Commanders are the underdog, and I'm sick of it because the Commanders have proven that they deserve to be in this championship game. The Commanders are making plays that nobody else in this division is playing. The Commanders will win. I'm going to go Commanders by something ridiculously stupid in the fourth quarter.
You're blowout? You're projecting a blowout?
No, so they're going to win by a really, really good fourth quarter drive.
Okay.
Something ridiculously stupid. Jaden Daniels is going to throw like a 58-yard touchdown to Terry McLaurin, something along those lines.
Yeah.
It'll be a very close and competitive game. The Eagles and the Commanders are both 1-1 against each other in the season, and
This
I
will
think
really decide.
round 3, baby, let's get them.
All right. So, Owen, do you want to?
I know I didn't bet on them, and it bit me in the butt when I did it last week. This week, I am going to go with the Eagles again. Saquon Barkley. I don't know if the Commanders can stop them. I
We
know
did last time.
I might not have learned my lesson, but I'm still pretty confident that the overall talent on the Eagles is going to be able to beat the Commanders.
I totally agree with that as well. I think it will be close. It's going to be interesting. Remember, the Eagles. The only time the Commanders beat the Eagles was in Washington when Jalen Hurts went down. So
Jalen Hurts is injured again.
That is true. That's the variable. If Hurts isn't playing at full strength,
No.
then I have the commies. But if he's good to go, then I'm gonna
Yeah.
go with the Eagles.
But yeah, I'm gonna stick with it and kind of this might burn me in the end. I am gonna take Eagles as well. I just think that duo of Saquon and Hurts is too much, and I think if Hurts is at his best, they might be doomed because that's the thing. I think they need to focus more on that. They saw what worked against the Rams and earlier in the season, and of course, Washington might be ready for that now, but I don't know. I just think the Eagles are playing more consistent football and have an idea of how to win, and so far it's working. I don't see why they need to move away from it, and I don't see why it isn't going to work this Sunday. I think
right.
I'm going to say
and
it's
if we're
Eagles.
wrong, you can rag on us next week.
You bet your bonnet I will.
Yeah.
All right, so that we kind of had that. So let's talk about the game that's going to be the most stressful to watch.
Oh my gosh.
Bills Chiefs, winner goes to the Super Bowl, and this is probably the one that is not as certain, though it's going to be played in Arrowhead, and it's going to be on CBS at night. So it's going to be crazy.
It's going to be cold.
Cold. Not like these two teams aren't used to that. So
Yeah,
Well, yeah.
fair enough. It's not like when the Dolphins played the Chiefs
No.
in the freezing cold.
But
Tua can play in the cold. He said he could.
He said he could, but he couldn't.
I am really, really interested to see what happens. I think this game's going to be really hard to predict. I really want to go Bills here, and
America's Super Bowl relies on the Bills.
I'm gonna-
America
Yeah.
wants a Washington Bills Super
they
Bowl.
want.
They do.
I'm gonna.
Nobody wants to see
I'm gonna
Eagles
bite
versus
this.
Chiefs.
This might jinx Buffalo. I'm sorry. I'm taking the Bills. Bills by 3. I'm taking
Bills
the,
by 3?
Yes.
Bills by 7.
You're taking them by 7.
Bills by 7. I think that the Chiefs are a very, very shallow roster. They do not have a whole lot of talent besides their starting lineup. And when I think the Bills have beat them once before, and I think they can do it again. I think they're going to pull it off. I think it's going to be Bills by 7. But it will be a very, very entertaining game to watch. Potential contender for Game of the Year.
It's possible. I don't think we can be all unanimous here. I'm going to have to go with the Kansas City Chiefs
You're gonna
by
Chiefs?
3.
Okay.
I think Mahomes' ability to get out of bad situations combined with the Chiefs, let's just say questionable officiating.
They're
which
definitely
sometimes you get.
favoritive.
I don't see any reason why Mahomes won't just throw to Kelsey and we'll all be left disappointed before another year.
I'm
Do
gonna.
you think it'll be a victory position kneel, or do you think it'll be something stupid
I think it'll be
at the end?
something stupid like a
Something
walk-off field
stupid
goal
in
from
the
like
end.
65 yards.
All right.
Okay. I think the thing is that makes it funny when people are complaining about the referees, and don't get me wrong, they are bad. I think the one thing I hate is just the Chiefs fans kind of defending it. If I was a fan of the Chiefs, I would be owning it. Yeah, it was a bad call, but it benefited my team.
That's what I'm saying is like, the officiating call on that hit that Frankie Louvu put on Jared Goff. Where was the call? I mean, there should have been one. I'm not complaining because it got us a pick six, mind you, but,
know.
I think there should have been a call.
There was definitely a call on that too for the Lions. That was like the phantom face mask.
Yeah.
And I was like, that evens it out, I would say.
Yeah, you got one bad call, you got another bad call, it evens it out.
I think that's going to kind of get close to wrapping it up. Great week of football.
Absolutely.
Absolutely
I'm excited for Sunday.
banger of a Sunday that we're going to get. And, of course, we're going to be talking about that as well as going over NFL honors, about some of the awards that are going to be given out since that's kind of the only 2 games we're going to be talking about, as well as probably some coaching. As well, so we
There'll
got a lot
definitely
of,
be news around the league
We'll
by next
definitely-
week.
There'll be a lot of coaching changes.
we'll definitely be seeing what happens there, as well as our long awaited Super Bowl preview that will happen possibly on Thursday or Friday. It'll be before the Super Bowl. We'll see what happens, what the matchup might be. Obviously, we'll talk about some of that maybe next episode as well. But of course, everyone, this has been We Talk Sports. I'm Dom Sandy, signing out.
Go Cats, baby.